Hey, what's going on, Washington Football X? It's your boy Rod, and we are back with another pod, your favorite four. We got Steve, Phil, Dev, and myself, Rod. So before we jump into it, Phil, please introduce the pod.
Pod number 73 is going to be named in honor of Mark May. Mark May, another one of the original Hogs, played for us from 1981 to 1989. Was a right guard pretty much the entire time he played for us. Stalwart player, even though we kind of went through a few different left guards, cycling Russ Grimm and a few other guys, R.C. Tillman throughout that period. Mark May was always there at right guard. In fact, the only time he missed any games from 81 until 1989, he missed a few games in 87, some due to strike, a couple due to injury. Other than that, dude played in every game. But May was a one-time Pro Bowler in 1988, so another Hog who did make the Pro Bowl. Two-time Super Bowl champion, one of the 80 greatest Redskins. He is actually a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. And his number 73 is retired at the University of Pittsburgh. You youngins may know Mark May as a broadcaster. He did ESPN's College Game Day from 2001 to 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Before that, he was a studio analyst for TNT Sunday Night Football. Yes, football used to be on TNT on Sunday nights. And he also did like Arena League broadcasts. And he's been all over the map as a broadcaster and an analyst. I haven't always been the biggest fan of his commentary because he seems at times to be unnecessarily critical towards Washington. But maybe it's one of those things where you tend to be the most honest with the ones you love. But Mark May, nonetheless, one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever put on the burgundy and gold, and definitely deserving of all accolades he's received.
No, definitely, man. It's always a pleasure to hear you introduce the pods and talk about some of the the greats from the past and some of the current greats that we have. So Mark May, definitely shout out to him. I remember him watching him play, and definitely remember him watching him on ESPN as well. So Mark May, definitely shout out to him. But fellas, do you guys know what today is for the Washington Football Addicts?
Happy birthday!
It is our birthday.
Go Shorty! It's your birthday.
We are 100 years old for the Washington Football Addicts. And 73 pods, we're recording 73 now, and never imagined that it would take off like it has. It's been a blast. We've had some great guests the past year. We've had great banter back and forth amongst each other. Get emotional at times. We've had accomplishment stories, COVID stories, like everything. It's been wild, man. And Earth is opening back up. I went into a Walmart today with no mask on.
What?
It's crazy.
Were you scared? Man. Were you anxiety? Would you have any anxieties or anything?
Nothing. I mean, good. I mean,
like I don't want to go to church now. They opened it to everybody. My girlfriend goes like every Sunday, and every now and then she'll talk me into going. And man, I'm like, I ain't sitting next to nobody, man.
I will. Yeah. So for that, so the wife and I are vaccinated. The kids obviously aren't. We went trying to do something in Kansas City this past weekend, and we showed up to the event, and it was packed. And there's a ton of people not wearing a mask. When we're outside, you're not really supposed to, but we pulled away from that. But we're getting back to normal. We're planning our Vegas trip for later this year, and look forward to doing that with you guys. But 1 year, man, I appreciate you guys. So, Steve, how you feeling about 1 year in the pod game?
Man, so to celebrate the 1 year, I had to go out and get the hot shit, man. This is Thomas St. Moore bourbon, finished Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, finished in Chardonnay cask. This is the hot shit. Nobody can find this. If you look on Twitter, everyone's looking for it. I found it at my Total Wine up in Laurel by work, but they have one finished in Chardonnay cask, one finished in port cask. And if you're a bourbon drinker, this is the shit. So I had to go out and this is made in Kentucky, man. Where in Kentucky?
No, I just wanted to say it.
Yeah, this is Bardstown. But this is the hot stuff, man.
If you ever get a chance to take your wife, they got a bourbon trail there.
Oh, I know. My coworkers from Kentucky, he tells me about the bourbon trail all the time. So one day.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times in my college age. One of my friends exactly from Bardstown. That's only about Forest has only about 45 minutes from my hometown, so
yeah.
We used to go there all the time to party.
Cheers to you fellas. It's been a great run.
Some Smirnoff Ice I'm drinking.
There you go. Just the
Cheers.
beginning.
Smart water and a blunt.
There you go.
I'm drinking Walmart brand water, y'all. I'm not going fancy.
Man, you over drinking great value water, man.
Yeah. Water's water. I buy a 40-pack for $3, man. I go through about 8 or 9 of these a day.
You might as well be drinking a 40-ounce of Flint, Michigan water, man. That's probably how that is.
This is why I survived COVID with no symptoms, man.
He's drinking Detroit ass water.
Oh my gosh! But as we move on, with our 1-year anniversary, birthday, whatever we want to call it, a recent hire for the Washington football team. They hired a full-time mental health wellness doc. So I think that's a new trend across the league, and it's a positive trend. I think there's a lot of pressure placed on these players. We've always talked about, hey, maybe people need to see sports psychologists. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the same thing, but Phil, thoughts on us hiring a mental health advocate for the team?
Realistically, it can't be a bad thing. It can't be a bad thing to have people to address all areas of health. Obviously, we had to overhaul our physical health. We got new training staff and everything else with Ron Rivera, and now we're expanding that to mental health. I mean, think of it this way: imagine if we had someone on staff like this when, say, Sua Cravens came to the team. He might still be in the league.
Yes,
he might still be contributing if you had somebody like that on staff. So this helps to avoid situations like that as well. It's great for the players. Obviously, mental health is something that is very topical in 2021. And I think that anytime that you're working to improve not just player health, but player satisfaction, happy players are better producing players. So I think that there's nothing but good that can come from this.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Once again, we were the first, right?
No, we're the fourth. We're the fourth.
There's a couple of teams that have done it already, but I'm not sure. Do you know the other three, Phil, that have done it?
Not off the top of my head, but I bet you most of them are good franchises.
Yeah. and Dev, you were getting ready to chime in. Like, how do you feel about this? Do you think it's a good positive addition, or is it kind of just waving the hand? You muted, brother. Dev's muted.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish that we had done this a couple of years back. Like you said, we could have saved a guy like Sua Craven. It would have been a good look anyways for us to go in this mode. Who's the lady they hired for that?
Her name is
Dr. Barbara Roberts.
Barbara Roberts, yep. And she was a former associate professor at Georgetown University Medical Center, and she was on the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. I guess she's worked with many athletes in the past, so I think it was a good hire.
No, that's
I like
awesome,
I also like that we went local. We went with the Georgetown person.
She is the fourth, but she's actually the first full-time psychologist. The first full-time. Everybody else is part-time.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I was the first or something. I was like,
trendsetters.
Right. We keep doing it, man. I mean, it's good for once to hear about our football team winning off the field. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I definitely want to win on the field also. That's obviously the most important for the fans. But, as a human being, winning off the field in ways we can help people with their mental health. We can help bridge the gap with racism in sports. We're doing all the right things, man. We're doing things that are promoting, gender bias. I love this organization, man. I haven't been able to say that in a long time, that I like everything about them so far. Just win now. Just win.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about winning off the field. That's something that Bruce Allen said that he would do, but never really came to fruition. So
Bruce fucking Allen won off the field, but nobody else did.
Yeah, he did. no one else. But the biggest takeaway I have for this, fellas, is I believe last year Dak Prescott, to talk about a competitor within the division, but he said that he had some mental health challenges that he was dealing with. I think anxiety and he was. I think Skip Bayless actually kind of slammed him a little bit, and I think a lot of folks jumped on him like, "Hey, like cut that shit out." And this is a good thing. There's only nothing but goodness that could come from this. And like you said, I hope that it does result in players playing a whole lot better and getting that stressor off of them and just performing better on the field. So I see nothing but good positive news coming from this.
And one of the things they're going to have a challenge with, well, Ron said that mental health is one of the most important factors for making sure the players are prepared for real life challenges. But as someone who can honestly say, and I've seen mental health quite a few times that I've been out of the military, we had it really bad in the military. It was a stigma. It was, you're a lightfoot, you're weak if you don't go, and we just shoved it inside for the longest time. And some people, are not as resilient as others. And you can see sometimes it ends in a bad thing. So this is a great thing, but I will say the hardest problem she's going to have, because the hardest problem that I have is you're new, is having the ability to earn trust.
Yes.
Right.
It's a hard. So when for someone to open up to you, you have to earn that trust. So it's going to take a while for that process to take place. But this is all great stuff, though.
Yeah.
Well, your whole life you've been told as a man it's not cool to cry or to ask for help.
Absolutely.
It's not macho. So that's what happens, and it's probably uber macho in the military. I'm not in the military. I'm assuming it's probably really a macho place to be at.
And that's what Steve was talking about. Like literally, like if you saw how it's changed. I will say that it has changed for the better in recent years. If you need help, get help, seek help, and you will get the help you need. It's not nearly as, I don't want to say dehumanizing, but it kind of would. They'd hold it against you if you saw it out in yesteryears. But now it's not the same. It's very positive the way we deal with mental health issues in the military today. So now it's trending in the right direction, as I like to say. But next topic, training camp. So the contract had run out with Richmond. We were sort of speculating if the Washington football team would travel somewhere else across the country, kind of expand their footprint, yada, yada. But the team just announced today that they're going to be going back to Richmond, not for 2 weeks this time, but for 1 week. They're going to rent out the facility for $100,000, go back up to Ashburn to close out the rest of training camp. But a key takeaway that I noticed today is that in previous years, the city of Richmond would pay the Washington football team $500,000 to host that. That's insane to me, and they're not doing that this year. And I think that's a little bit of goodwill for the Washington football team. Maybe that means they're moving to Richmond with their next stadium. I don't know. This is just pure speculation. Far too early to tell. But interesting to see that they're not going to charge the city of Richmond that $500,000 like normally. They're just going to pay them $100,000 for the week stay at the train facility. So, Dev, I know you're not from the area. Were you kind of hoping that the team would travel and perhaps get a little bit closer to the Midwest where we are, and maybe you could see them, in the Midwest?
Man, I would love for them to go somewhere like Louisville or something like that. There's actually a lot of Washington fans here in Kentucky. I live in an apartment building, and there's only 8 apartments, but 3 of them houses are Washington fans. So we just met each other because I would go outside in New Jersey and somebody noticed. Like, we all 3 are Washington fans. My across the street, all neighbor. Yeah, both of them have joined our group since then too. There's tons at work. So I would love for him to come a little, I guess a little more Western Virginia area, so that I could maybe travel to see him. That would be awesome.
And that's what I think a lot of people were hoping. I saw across the Twitter sphere where folks were saying, like, please come to Cali, come to Arizona, come to Idaho. It doesn't matter.
It'd be dope if they went to like London or something too. That'd be dope, in my opinion. That would be. I think that should be what they do. That's no distractions, really, for them.
Andy Burroughs would have a stroke of happiness.
Man. If they went like to Boston or somewhere, it'd be pretty dope.
Shout out to Andy. Well, remember back in the day, it used to be Frostburg. Carlisle. You got to get away, avoid the distractions, and then Bruce Allen. I don't know whose call it was, but
that was Ashburn, a Dan Snyder thing.
Ashburn and Ashburn. Then Bon Secours. But I'm excited personally.
I have an idea. I have an idea. Since they like college, since they did the college campus before with Frostburg and Carlisle. JMU has some nice facilities. And I'm only 20 minutes from Harrisonburg. I would love to be the official training camp correspondent of the Washington Football Addicts. The best pod in the Washington football podsphere.
Fuck it, I got a big backyard, man.
Well, I was all excited when I heard it was coming down. Then I looked at the dates and like, oh shit, I'm gonna be at the beach in Delaware during this whole week, so I'm gonna miss it. I can't even go to Richmond. I'm so pissed.
That sucks.
Who goes to the beach in Delaware, bro?
Bro, you don't know about the beaches in Delaware. I got some good
Nobody
spots
knows
for you.
about the beach in Delaware.
They do.
I do.
You got
Lewis,
you got Rehoboth, you got Bethany Beach. You got a lot of stuff, but I like to go away from the riffraff. I like to go further north, was private. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm a little bummed. I did want to go. It's always next year though, so I can get some more signed apparel so I don't have to buy it on eBay and then show you.
Whatever they end up doing, since we're taking fan feedback into consideration for everything. Richmond was a love-hate. Some people like Richmond. I liked Richmond. I don't mind the drive. I didn't really have too much of a problem with parking or anything like that.
How far is that for you, Phil?
For me, it's about hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. It's 8 hours for me. I looked it up. It's like 8.5 hours or 9.5 hours from here. I looked it up. I'm like, nope, won't be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. No, I'm sorry.
I drove 8.5 hours today, Dev. You could definitely do it.
No way. I drive 8 hours a night. I still don't want to do it.
Oh, gosh.
But no, I mean, whatever they do, they have to just wherever location they decide to do it in. I'm sure they're going to take into consideration fan feedback for what they liked about Richmond and what they didn't like. I didn't mind it at all. Of course, I also like the city of Richmond, so I don't have a problem with that. But some people didn't like it because Richmond is very close to sea level, so it gets very humid in the summer down in Richmond. Plus, they're right off the James River, so I could, whereas places like Carlisle and Frostburg, Carlisle's further north, Frostburg's up in western Maryland in the mountains, so it's cooler. It's a little more comfortable to stand out there for 3 hours and watch practice. So whatever they do, I'm sure they're going to take fan feedback into consideration, whether they go back to Richmond and also whatever incentives the team has to move to that location. But, I'm telling you, they make more money than you realize at training camp with all the merch they sell.
They do, but here's the thing. So when I was in Stafford, Virginia, living there the past couple of years, I went to Richmond and it was wholly underwhelming for me though. I'm not sure if I just went during a bad time, but I didn't see a lot of vendors selling food or snacks or anything. And I'm not sure. I've never been to an NFL training camp, so I did not know what the atmosphere would be. I didn't see folks, necessarily. It was very hard to try to get autographs or anything like that. My persona is I'm older than these dudes, so I feel like a little chump if I'm begging them for an autograph, and I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way. We're just fans of the team, and they play for the team. But I never really wanted to fight through a crowd to get an autograph. So I never got anything signed at a training camp. And Steve does, I have to go on eBay and just buy stuff. So.
Well, remember they had a bunch of strife with the city of Richmond over money. Yeah. The Richmond didn't want to pay, the team didn't want to pay for their own costs. So I think that was 2019 or something like that. But have they announced? Have they said who's paying for what?
Yeah, we're the Washington football team is paying $100,000 for the training facility, and Richmond doesn't have to pay the normal $500,000 that they would pay to Washington.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy. For multi-billionaire franchise to do that, if you're expanding your footprint, I get it. Everything's about money, but I think that's kind of bogus that they were charging them $500,000 to the city to host a training camp for 2 weeks, which maybe they make that money back in tax revenue in sales. I'm sure they do. They have to if they're going to pay that fee, but that just seems a little bit excessive to me for 2 weeks of training camp. Yeah. But
It's the same stadium argument too. Like the city, the team wants the city to pay for it, and the city said the team wants the team pay for it. It'll never stop. But at the end of the day, the team's bringing economy to a city. You think the city would want that? So I don't know.
Trust me, I had a conversation. This is the one time I ever got to talk to Michael Phillips, who some of y'all probably know from Richmond Times Dispatch.
RTD.
I actually got to talk to him in 2014. I went to camp and I talked to him, and he was telling me about how far and wide people had traveled to Richmond. I said, do you get the impression they're staying, or are they just coming and going? He says, no, most of them probably stayed the night before. So I imagine just the tax revenue they're getting from hotels, meals, things like that is a net positive in revenue for Richmond. But at the same time, Richmond's probably, they're trying to spend as little as possible to maximize what they're getting in. And, the team only, wants to make as much as they can for bringing that to the city. So that's, I'm sure, probably typical stuff as far as that goes. But if they go to a smaller location too, I imagine they'll get less money, but they'll also have less pushback from the locality, because the locality is going to take it. So if you go to like a Frostburg, or you go to a Harrisonburg, you go to a Carlisle, these are areas in which you're not going to get as much money from that locality, but you're also going to have a lot less in the way of pushback and, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z. They'll have a little more free reign to do things the way they want to.
Yeah. And Phil, I know you're definitely the perfect person to get chosen for that, that fan advocate position, because it seems like you have a lot of great ideas, and I'm not sure how the organization is going to solicit feedback from you guys, but I'm excited to know that one of the Addicts is part of that program and will be, a voice of perhaps reason for the organization, fan base, whatever. So everything you're saying here, if you're ever part of any conference call, Phil, please bring that up, because they're definitely valid points that the team needs to hear. And looking forward to what happens, what comes of this fan program that Washington's put together. So what does the acronym stand for again, Phil?
Fan Ambassador Network, the FAN, FAN. They covered so many different categories. I mean, you have, like, I'm going to be part of culture, which is going to include not just the culture of the city, but it's also include the history of the franchise, things like that. Putting my whole human computer name to test. And a lot of things they talk about is, how do we tie the past into carrying things forward?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of importance to that, because we're making this huge switch with a name change, which is going to be a bit of an identity change. They want to change the identity anyway. That's been part of this whole culture change going on within the football organization, let alone the non-football aspects. You have people who are going to be giving feedback on entertainment, food, family experience. They cover so many different aspects of what not just the fan experience of the game, but the experience of being a fan of the franchise in general. I'm really excited because I get to. I'll go so far as to say this if they've named everybody at this point. So I'm not really. Other people probably expounded upon this too. We meet quarterly with whoever from the organization. If they have ideas that they're cooking up, they're going to bring those ideas to us. We're going to focus group those ideas. We're going to be like, hey, great idea. No, horrible idea. Hey, we have this idea. This guy has that idea. It's going to be that exchange of not just feedback on what they want to do, but ideas that we have that we bring to the table.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of dialogue. And it's giving fans a voice, a seat at the table when they make these decisions. I don't know if any other franchise in the league does this. If they do, it's good for them. But I think it's great for us, especially an organization that has had, in the past 20 years, there's been a bit of a rocky, contentious relationship between the fans and the organization. People don't like the experience at FedEx. They didn't like the social media for a long time. And, now it's one of the best in the league. But the big thing is that we now have an official voice We have people to represent. And hey, congratulations to a lot of very notable positive voices in the fan base on Twitter and on social media are in this. So they're also easy to access.
Yeah. No,
anybody watching this, my Twitter handle right there, Filio83. Find me on Twitter. If you've got ideas that involve culture or the history of the franchise that you would like to see emphasized, hit me up.
Yeah,
let me know.
Yeah, that's dope, man. And it's crazy because we had Julie Donaldson on a couple pods ago, and I was wearing my Redskins hat and the Redskins shirt, and she was like, "Hey, like I get it, like it's culture, it's part of your guys' identity." So it's awesome that you're part of that specific subset. I didn't realize that they had a specific kind of subcategories for how they're going to run that fan network, but I'm looking forward to what happens with that. And
I'll even tell you this, just throw out some a name. Those of you who have been following the podcast, Rio Robinson, we had him on previously. Rio is also a fan ambassador. He's going to be covering entertainment.
Okay.
So a lot of this is going to be like music at the game day experiences, things like that. So those of you who go to games and you want to see live bands, you want to see entertainment, you want to see stuff that's interactive, that's your man. Talk to Rio.
So we need to ask Rio, is there going to be a band next year then, right?
I don't know. When Rio was on the pod with us, he couldn't hear us as we were rocking out to music. So is he the good fit for entertainment? I'm joking. I'm Rio. I'm just joking. I'm smiling as I say that, man. Nah,
Rio says that he strikes me as a dude who's got like a studio in his basement.
He probably does, man. He probably does. But next topic I want to jump in with you guys to discuss. So if you guys haven't heard, I was on the Back Row Redskins show a couple of days ago with our boy Manny, and one of the players that was discussed as far as a sleeper, for me at least, I said, hey, I think Darrick Forrest is going to be one of our sleepers this year. I didn't commit to him being a full-time starter for the Washington football team. I think hopefully we're pretty good at the safety position, both strong and free, with some of the depth and potential starters we have. But we've heard his name a lot during the OTAs the past 2 weeks or so. So I'll kick it to you first, Dev. Cincinnati Bearcat, Darrick Forrest. Do you know anything about him? Have you seen or heard any tape? And if not, that's fine. We could push it to one of the other folks. But
no, I mean, I after hearing about him from you guys and on the interwebs, as you would, yeah. I went to, of course, obviously YouTube like everybody else does, and I read a couple of articles that John Keim had written. And it seems like he's doing pretty good. My only issue about it is the position he plays. Unless somebody gets hurt or vastly underperforms, what do you do? Like, what are you going to do with that? I just wonder, unless he's so good that he starts. If he's so good and he starts, then you win. But if he's just good enough to be on the team, like, what do you win from that?
Yeah,
because we know Reeves can play. We know Everett can play. We just got a guy in free agency that plays.
Yeah.
I guess Apke's still there doing something. I don't know who you push out the team.
They've been trying Apke at cornerback.
Is that just because they needed bodies out there because it's just OTAs, or is it because that's where they're going to play him at?
Well, they had the OTAs were probably about 96% show rate. So I don't know. They could have just been testing things out. It's OTAs. They could have just been putting the body somewhere and see how he performs if his hips have loosened up from the past 2 years. Pause. But it's I don't know, man. We'll see. But I'll kick it to you then, Steve. How you feeling about Darrick Forrest, man? You know much about him? You think he's going to be an impact player, perhaps, or what?
I mean, I know that he had 3 picks in 3 days, so that was pretty impressive. To me, I think it's just paving the way for probably Cam Curl and Darrick Forrest to be the future secondary, regardless if you say they play the same position or not. I think we can get out of Landon's contract next year. So another gem. Hey, whoever scouted that dude.
If he ends up a starter, then it's a win. I just don't understand if he's not going to be your starter.
I really like Reeves last year too, though, man.
Yeah, it seemed like the same guy to me, almost. But you already seen one guy do it on Sunday. That's
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can say it's practice how you want to. Obviously, Apke was doing something in practice to be starting at the beginning of the fucking season. Obviously, in the OTAs or whatever they did last year, Apke must have been ripping ass out there or something. Because he got
Sean
to start
Davis
the first
just
day.
stunk. Let's be honest.
Man, either way, he still started there. Reeves and Everett were on the team when he was there. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Curl was on the team. Curl was on the team too. Apke started.
I'm not worried about Forrest, but here's the thing. Forrest doesn't play the same position. Forrest is more of a free safety. That's something you got to take into consideration. Free safety, we're looking at Reeves, and we have Reeves and Everett back there.
Yeah.
No,
But either way,
Troy Apke?
We're not talking about Apke, but we just picked up a free agent free safety also. You got him. And then you got to think of, that's not the point if he's a free safety or not. You still got 2 or 3 other strong safeties you're going to keep. So we're going to keep 9 safeties? That's my point. How many safeties do you think we're going to keep? 4?
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 go down last year, Everett and Collins. Injuries are going to happen. We can stash these dudes on the practice squad. Now, I don't know what the rules are for COVID this year as far as not being able to poach players off practice squads. But
Forrest got drafted, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So they're not. If you cut a guy that got drafted, he's picked up. They're gonna pick him up the next day, man. That dude's not gonna last at all.
Yeah.
So you can't really get him on a practice squad.
Hey, but you know what? All these things we're talking about, they're great problems to have. When have we talked about, man, we have so much depth. What are we gonna do? When have we ever said that? It's like, what bum is gonna come off the street and play offensive line next week? So these are all good problems to have.
Yes.
But you like to see guys like that, who are kind of bubble players, play like their job is on the line.
Yeah.
Like
honestly,
they're
a 5th round pick or something. He wasn't a
spot.
bubble player.
Well, 5th round pick, I mean, you expect him to make a team, but he's trying to be more than just a special teams guy. And that's something that people thought he was going to be. Was going to be DeShazer Everett all over again, just a special team standout. And he's doing more than that.
Remember we laughed at Logan Campbell when she said AGG was a dark horse to make the team, and
was it AGG though, or was it somebody else?
No, I think it was AGG.
I don't know. I had to go back.
I think it was, but we laughed like he's a 4th round pick. What are you talking about? She's probably right. Like that dude's a dark horse to make the team this year.
She don't have a job anymore, does she?
Yeah. Shout out to Logan.
Yeah, she should. I'm not sure what led to her dismissal from the organization. I'm not sure if she called it anywhere else, but
clairvoyant.
The going up to like the draft and everything like that, like all the draft profiles, I thought she was doing a good job. So it was a surprise cut to see her release. But that's the world of business, man. You got good people that get let go, and it happens all the time. But other than Eric, go ahead.
I was going to say another name, since we're talking about who else stood out from OTAs.
Yep.
Benjamin St. Juice. St. Juice.
Right.
That dude apparently has been standing out as well. I mean, again, 3rd round pick. You expect him to make the team, but this is you want to see guys like that push for playing time. Apparently, he's playing right up on a lot of these wide receivers and not letting them get anything easy. And you want that from a big physical. You know what?
I'm gonna predict now Everett ain't gonna make the team, man. Absolutely ain't gonna make the team either.
St. Juice is a cornerback, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a corner.
Yeah.
Well, that will make sure that Apke doesn't make the team. So, which thank God. But I was a fan of his coming out of Minnesota. Not everybody was, because they people had their opinions. But I like the kid. Every time I did mock draft, I always seemed to end up picking him. Late 3rd, early 4th, and he went late 3rd. Or he went mid 3rd. I'm sorry, but nonetheless, he's a big physical corner, and I think that gives us a nice counter to some of the finesse we see from a guy like William Jackson. William Jackson's a real finesse corner. He presses well, but he doesn't have that big stature. He's not a physical corner per se like St. Juice is. So I just like seeing that. I mean, he apparently snagged from the video I saw a really nice interception, undercut a route nicely. And all reports are saying that he's mixing it up with the receivers, getting right in there. So I like seeing mid-round rookies fighting for playing time, like just saying, look, you're not just going to put me on the pine. You're going to give me playing time because I'm going to earn it. I love seeing that. I love guys coming in like that with that mindset.
Yeah, to me, I've liked De'Ami Brown in camp. And here's the funny part: y'all gonna get mad at me just because I like to follow stupid storylines. But Ryan Fitzpatrick last year, advanced metrics, he was the #1 rated passer under pressure in 2020. The highest passer rating in the NFL at 98.6, completed 62.1% of his passes in the NFL. So you combine that with having a dude who can just run straight really fast, like we haven't seen since Deshaun Jackson. It's got the potential to be really, really good for this offense. So I'm excited. We haven't had a guy who can take the top off since Deshaun, but when we had Deshaun, we really didn't have anyone who could throw on the ball. So
what McLaurin's 40 times just as fast as his? Some shit.
Yeah, but get on the game speed. McLaurin's not beating people on fly routes. You know that. He's just not.
McLaurin's a route runner.
That's what I was going to say. He runs low to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, McLaurin's the kind of guy who he gets you off the cut because when he cuts on a post or a slant, he doesn't lose speed. So that's one of the things that McLaurin has an advantage. De'Ami Brown, track star type explosion. You send him deep, he's gone. He doesn't need to cut. McLaurin's game speed probably about he's still fast, but he's about half a notch slower in cleats than Brown. But McLaurin, of course, like I said, he's such a crisp route runner. Whereas Brown, I mean, you can fly route that dude all day long. And that's just going to make McLaurin's life easier.
Yeah. And, talking about OTAs for me, I'm going to jump in before we switch topics. But a standout for me was at least a mention by the coach, Ron Rivera. And he mentioned that Sadiq Charles was taking snaps at left tackle in the absence of Charles Leno being gone. He just came here from Chicago, of course. Wife just had a baby. He's expected to compete at left guard, but he looked decent during OTAs. I mean, Chase Young wasn't there, so he wasn't going against perhaps premier talent against him, but he was serviceable as a left tackle, and Christian Lucas was the right tackle for that. But it's good to hear, someone that we drafted last year, unfortunately had an injury the first time he really had like live game action and went down like the second or third play and never really saw the field again. So good to hear that he's trending upward and doing what he needs to do. And hopefully he performs well, whether it's at left guard, left tackle, whatever. So another good problem to have.
Did any of y'all hear what Scherff said about Sam Cosmi?
No, I didn't.
I saw it. Go ahead, Bill.
So apparently Cosmi walks into the weight room and Scherff's doing deadlifts, right? Which, offensive linemen, when offensive linemen deadlift, it's heavy. Apparently Cosmi just walked over like, let me work in, and just started just like blowing things away. And Scherff says, I looked at him and I just went, holy shit, where did you come from? That was his exact words. So if you're a rookie, you walk in, you're an athletic rookie. Cosmi was rated as the second most athletic tackle to come out of the draft since like the mid 80s, since they started keeping all these combine metrics.
Yeah.
And he walks
in.
in.
Me hype over here, man. Rub my hands together like Smithers and shit.
He walks into a weight room and just starts, but he walks to a weight room and he's just like, oh, you doing deadlifts? Let me work in, and just starts just repping them out on Scherff like that. I mean that's
demoralizing. when you've already warmed up and that's your working set, and someone's like, "Let me warm up with you," like, holy shit.
Well, I don't know if it was a warm up, but apparently he was repping right there with Scherff. And Scherff's a strong dude, but he was repping right with him. And this is a rookie.
Those Oklahomas with him and Ioannidis was probably epic.
Oh my God! Can you imagine that?
Man.
Who did we used to have from Nebraska? I know Phil Daniels and
Murphy. Trent Murphy was in Nebraska.
No.
He was doing steroids.
Damn it, man. He used to this is when like Philip Daniels was on the team, though, man. Because he used to always go back and forth with each other. Can't think of his
offensive
name
lineman?
right now. Adam Carricker.
Oh yeah, Carricker, yeah.
Carricker, yeah.
They always used to have like lifting battles or something like that. So
what's the big strong linebacker from Louisville we had?
Loax?
Yeah, big
Lorenzo
muscles,
Alexander?
man. No, he's not from Louisville. It was a linebacker. I can't think of his name. He was like that. I don't think he ever made the team. Nah, fuck it.
Oh, who was that dude? There was a dude who we had that played linebacker, offensive lineman, and defensive lineman. Who the hell was it?
Rock Alexander?
Yeah. That dude apparently was a weight room champion.
Yeah.
Like,
I tell you,
I geek out over that. But when I heard that stuff about Cosmi, I was geeking out. I was just like, yes. I like my lineman, and that dude. I'm just like, when I'm hearing that, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now we're talking about weight room champs. We need a rehab champ, and the next guy I'm going to talk about is Antonio Gibson. So he recently came out and said that he's still rehabbing that turf toe injury, and he could probably play. If there was a game tomorrow, Sunday, whatever, he could play. But it's still something that he is maintaining and keeping an eye of. So it is now June, and that turf toe was hurt maybe November, December. How concerned are you, Dev? Because you're a former distance runner and sprinter. I'm not sure if you've ever had a toe turf injury, but do you have any concern with our starting running back saying, "Hey, my turf toe is still bothering me"? And if so, who the hell are we looking to in the running back room to replace him?
I definitely have had turf toe. It sucks. Honestly, but the reason I had it is running track on concrete, practice on concrete in spikes, it'll mess your feet up, But it does hurt. It doesn't hurt much to if you're jogging or running really fast. It's usually fine then. But it's the sudden movements and the light jogging kind of activity that hurts the worst, and it only gets better with rest. So that's going to be a tough call. It might be somewhere first half season or up through mini camp, whatever's next. That he has to not get reps or just rest it up. But I say before the season starts, he'll probably be okay. Is he wearing a plate?
Didn't say. I didn't see any specifics other than him just saying, "Hey, it's still something I'm monitoring." Who wore a plate a couple of years ago? Was it Pierre Garçon? I think.
Yeah, he had bad turf toe too.
Yeah, and he still. I couldn't tell. Pierre's obviously a hell of an athlete, but when he had his turf toe, you could probably tell that it bothered him, but he still performed pretty damn well with it. So that gives me a little bit of hope, knowing that you have premier athletes that can still perform. But with that said, Steve, I think you brought it up either in a chat or on the last pod, whatever. But they're talking about using Gibson more receiving role as well. So if cutting kind of hurts, do you think that's something that they got to put on the back burner?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, first off, we'll table those turf toe comments for episode 88. We'll drop that nugget right here. Absolutely. And yeah, so I mean, Scott Turner said at his press conference a couple weeks ago, yes, they want to put more receiving options on the table for Antonio Gibson because I think they pretty much underutilized him last year. I don't know why they treated him like crawl, walk, run. I mean, the dude was a former wide receiver. Why not just use his strengths last year? But he did say that this year they're going to put more receiving routes in him, but it's hard to cut, just like you guys said. So it's probably going to be off the table till he's healthy, but no worry. I was hesitant last year, but JD McKissick showed me that he can play the role and he can play it well. That's Dev's boy. I know Dev was all in on JD McKissick. JD McKissick can play the receiver out of the backfield really well. So I think we're fine. And who's that other running back that we picked up?
Jared Patterson.
Patterson's a bowling ball, dude. So I think we're okay. We still got Lamar Miller. So I think we're okay if they got to sit him for a couple weeks. I'd be a little salty if they did, if he's on the pup list, but I'd like to see him play personally. Let's do this thing, man. It's time to roll. Come on, AG. Let's go.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah. Phil, you got any concerns?
Lingering injury issues at running back always concern me. because it is such a you only get a limited amount of time with running backs in the NFL now before they hit their late 20s, 30 years old, and the wear and tear starts to get on them. I think it's interesting to look at using him more as a receiver. Maybe that he has improved his habit of body catching. And I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't do it last year, because because he split time at different positions, he's never truly refined at either receiver or running back. He got refined at running back. And one of the things I always had a criticism with Gibson, you all go back to the early pods, you hear me say this, he body catches. All right, he doesn't catch with his hands. However, you did see him go with his hands more at the end of last season. And I think that's probably something they had worked with and they felt more comfortable utilizing him more in the pass game. Now, I'm not obviously I said that J.D. McKissick was our best slot receiver last year. I'm not huge on him as a running back carrying the load. I like him as a change of pace kind of guy, whatever. Patterson will be interesting. I think that we have such a focus on the passing game that it kind of allows us not to have to lean on the running game, which means that whatever production we get is just icing on the cake. We're going to be a passing team next year. It's obvious. Look at all the chips we put in at receiver. So I'm a little concerned, but I'm not worried. But it is something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and it's weird though that you say we're going to be a passing team, and I don't know if it's just a little bit of miscommunication from the organization right now. The organization being the coaches, but I've seen reports that said, "Hey, we're not going to place everything on Ryan Fitzpatrick's shoulders," and then you see reports where Scott Turner saying, "Hey, like we're going to attack deep this time and take shots down the field." So I don't know.
It's the Mike Shanahan school of misdirection.
Yeah. Belichick, Shanahan,
but
I'm all for it.
I also would say that whole we're not going to lean on Fitzpatrick is also a way of saying we've got so much talent at receiver. All he has to do is get the ball out there. He doesn't have to make the receivers better like quarterbacks in the past have had to do.
Yeah, very true.
And I hope that's absolutely right, man. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna pick up where you left off. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say, so we're kind of closing this one out, but yeah, if we're not placing a lot of emphasis on Ryan Fitzpatrick to be the guy to beat teams and allow the skill players to be the guys that beat teams, that's what you want to do anyway. So it's rare that you have the all-pro quarterback on your team, but if you can have a Pro Bowler, has Fitzpatrick ever been a Pro Bowler?
I don't think he has.
No, I don't think so.
If he can play the Pro Bowl type level, I think it's great. Oh, he hasn't.
Cut it out, bro.
Become a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Like you're doing what us dream of doing. So let's get it done. But Phil, we get ready.
He just plays like he did last year. He straight.
Off this. I know you're. Hey Phil,
Dev, you break it up.
Something called Washington Wayback, I believe.
Oh. Yes. All right. I'll pick this one up. So everybody likes that I do the little player history and things like that to begin the pod and everything else. And going back to my whole bringing the history forward to the present, I think it's good that we kind of look back at the glory days. Obviously, podcasting is a great way to kind of, discuss these things on our own time and so forth. And people can digest this the material at their leisure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a series this summer called Washington Wayback, and I'm going to start. It's going to be in a couple weeks. You're going to see them popping up in your feed, and it's going to cover some of the aspects of the history of this franchise. Cover some glory years. I got a couple of topics as far as individual seasons, individual groups of players. I'm going to talk about a lot of the people that are fans now remember 2012. the younger generation doesn't remember 99, which was, I say, the best team we've had since our glory years under the first Gibbs run. So I'm going to cover the 1999 team and what could have been, because that could have been an era for us, but we let it slip through our fingers. But I'm going to cover the good, the bad, the ugly. Another thing I want to cover is I want to cover the posse, because you hear the name, but I don't think a lot of people realize how good Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders were at wide receiver. And I'm going to touch on a couple of other topics as well that I'm fleshing out, but those are the two that I've already fleshed out, and I'm just about ready to start recording and put out there for you. And I'm going to be putting them out this summer as I can. I work. I have a son who's not in school. He's on summer vacation. And I also am understudy for my master's degree. So because of that, I have to space my time out as I can. But I plan on getting about 4 or 5 of these out before we start the season. And I think that this will be a nice little addition to what we do here on the Addicts Pod by expounding upon the history, expounding upon the glory, the fact that, you know what, right now we're in the middle of building something great. We haven't had this kind of optimism, but in fits and spurts for the past 30 years. But I think it's good for us to remember that, you know what, we've had some great stuff happen with this franchise. I'm old enough to have been born into it. Those older than me, you remember even more. Those younger than me, you don't know about it. But now you're going to learn. And you're going to, I want to instill that sense of pride that, you know what, this is one of the stalwart, legendary franchises in the history of the NFL. And you should take some pride in that. And I'm going to give you some of the nuggets as to why. I'm probably going to touch on some Sonny Jurgensen. I'm going to touch on some of the George Allen years. I want to talk about some of the players that are great that didn't get a lot of shine. That don't get a lot of shine. They're not the first names mentioned. Talk about Larry Brown. We'll talk about Jerry Smith. Guys like that from the 60s and 70s who are fantastic players. And in Jerry Brown's sense, revolutionary. So this is what we're going to do with Washington Wayback. We're going to touch on the history. We're going to touch on the glory. And we're going to make you realize that, hey, this is a franchise you should be proud of from 1937 to 2021 and beyond.
Nice. That's good shit, Phil. Well, simmer down. We don't want you to go into an episode right now. Let's go ahead and save that content for a little bit down the road. So just
teaser, baby. Teaser.
Take a breath.
Let them feel a little bit of the sauce.
That's right. Take a breath. Let's let the juju flow back into you, and let's save that energy for the future. That's what I'm talking about. So, fellas, it's been a great episode. This is our 1 year birthday / anniversary. It was great. Episode 73 dedicated to Mark May. We talked about mental health today, our birthday, training camp, Phil being a fan ambassador, OTAs, Antonio Gibson and his turf toe. I mean, Washington Wayback content coming up. It's been a great 1 year episode. Yeah, Troy Apke. Whatever, man. So
way to kill the mood.
Yeah, man. That's like way to deflate the balloon. We were ending on a high note and dead out to bring us down. So you know what? You got to go first, man. Let's who your shout outs.
Troy Apke might end up being the next. That might be the first white corner to play in the NFL since Sehorn, bro. I'm
possibility
playing corner.
So is that your shout out? You're shouting out Troy Apke? Is that what you're saying? Is that you going to record? That's your shout out, Jason Sehorn?
You hear that?
The next Troy Apke.
That's me not holding my breath.
So Dev is shouting out Jason Sehorn tonight. Okay, that's how we're ending episode 73. All right, Phil, who you got?
I want to shout out. There's a guy on YouTube, HTTR 1983. This is a guy who I've been getting a lot of great content for the Washington Wayback. He's been uploading Redskins games from the past to YouTube, which he's not the only one to do it. But what he has done is he's got an overlay where you're watching like the game broadcast on Fox or whatever, but he's got the WJFK audio over it, and it's synced perfectly. So you get to listen to the glorious tones of, say, Frank Herzog, Sam Huff, and Sonny Jurgensen in their prime. Stuff like that. It was a funny one. There's a Redskins-Rams game from 2002. I'll give you an example. Where they're talking about Danny Werfel starting at quarterback. And Frank Herzog says, Danny Werfel's the only person who thought he should start at quarterback. And Sam Huff said, that's not true. So did his wife.
Nice.
And things like that. So it kind of shows that those guys used to be just as critical as any fan and just as sarcastic and biting. So if you want to catch, some glory content the way we all consumed it when we were younger, HTTR 1983 on YouTube, he's put together a massive list of games. He's got clips of like the longest runs, longest passes of the year for different years, things like that. So really good stuff.
That's what's up. All right, Rod, who you got?
Sounds cool.
I'm going to try to give a shout out to Hotel Internet. I don't know if you guys can hear me, if I sound like Neo in the Matrix, but I asked.
We ought to call this
I had to
podcast
text
Hotel
Steve
Internet
on my phone, man. I'm like,
and Great Value Water.
I'm like, Steve, please close out the pod because I started wavering towards the end. But yeah, shout out to you guys, man. It's been a hell of a year. I really appreciate working with y'all. It's been fun. We've had our ups and the downs, but we're closing out our 1 year on a high. So I'm excited to hear about Phil's Washington Wayback. Throw that under the Addicts banner, and a great addition, I think, to what we provide to you guys. So, Steve, I'll let you continue to close out. Thanks, man.
Fantastic. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to Rod's Hotel Internet. It's always a pleasure when your internet connection sucks. And so my shout out first to Taylor Heineke. He's duking it out. He took an elbow to the face, had to get some stitches, looking like he was in the boxing ring, taking some blows. So I had to wear the Legend of Taylor Heineke shirt today. One, just to piss you off, and then two, to give a shout out to Taylor. But my real shout out today goes to Ron Rivera. For those who don't know, Ron Rivera was one of 78 players and coaches nominated for the 2022 College Football Hall of Fame, in which they'll find out at the beginning of December. And I didn't know this about Ron until I saw the blurb on Twitter, but did y'all know that he was the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year in '83, and he was a consensus All-American? I didn't know that at California. So he's Golden Bear? No.
Yep, that's Golden Bears.
Golden Bears. So hey, shout out to Ron. Hope you make it. Hey, if you do, that's cool. But that's my shout out. So, fellas, we're gonna shut this one down. Just under an hour. It was a great podcast. Look for the content in the Facebook group. Look for the content on where you find your favorite podcasts, and especially on YouTube now that we're going visual content. So we look forward to kicking you on the future. We got some great guests coming up here in the future. We're not going to go ahead and drop those yet, but we got some former football players coming back on. We got some good media folks lined up. So we hope to give you guys some great content moving forward as we get closer to the season, and it's just going to get better from here. So congrats to 1 year to all the bros, all the other addicts in the group, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.